Hi, everyone. I want to first, before I get started, I want to just give you a special thank you for taking the time to listen to this conversation we're about to have. I'm going to share a set of teachings that I learned years ago. I call it the Four Principles of Life. And I noticed that in this life, over the years that I've been going through it, it's been a very interesting walk for me. So I was born August 1951. El Paso, Texas. I was there 5 years, then I came to Orange County, and I had an opportunity to get bullied for 5 years, from 5 to 10, heavily. And so I got to experience what it's like to be heavily rejected by my classmates. And it was one of my greater experiences in life after I experienced what I did. And I went through school, and I finished school, and so in 1970, when I graduated from high school, there was somebody reading a book called How to Feel Like a Million, and I was so intrigued by the title of this book that I actually went and got the book and I read it, and I actually practically memorized this book. And it was actually turned out to be the first nutritional book I had ever read. And in there it talked about how they take, what they make white bread out of is white flour. And they actually take whole wheat and they strip it with 3 chemicals, and they strip all the nutritional value out of whole wheat. And they take the germ, what they call it wheat germ, that's inside the seed, and they take that and sell that separate, and they call it wheat germ, and they sell that separate at the health food stores. And then they take the oil, the natural oil from the wheat, and they call it vitamin E. And then they take the skin off the seed and they call it wheat bran, and they sell that separately in the health food stores. And then they take the meat that's left, and then they bleach it and they chemicalize it, and they bleach all the nutritional value out of it and make it white. And then they fortify it with synthetic vitamins and minerals, which at that time I found out later that synthetic vitamins and minerals don't really, your body doesn't know what to do with them anyway. And then and they make white flour out of that. And they make crackers and cookies and pastries and all kinds of desserts and cakes and everything out of that. And so basically, the white flour didn't have any nutritional value that the body can actually use. It's a pure carbohydrate, but it's empty calories in a sense. My point is I began to understand that we as a people are starving and we don't even know it. We're eating all this food and we don't even know it. Anyway, my point is that as I learned about that, and as I was beginning to learn a little bit. I went in the Air Force right after that, and I just ate the Air Force food because that's all they had. And before I knew it, after boot camp, I went through that with flying colors. At that time, I was able to do 90 pull-ups. I could do 200 finger push-ups. I could run a mile in 4.5 minutes. I could do 4 minutes underwater. I could climb a 20-foot rope in 6 seconds. It was great. I felt great and everything. But after boot camp, my body started having some problems digesting the food I was eating, and I started getting constipated. Instead of going to the bathroom a couple times a day, I started going to the bathroom every other day, every 3 days, then once a week, and then once every 2 weeks, and then once every 3 weeks. So believe me, when you're eating 3 meals a day and you're going to the bathroom once every 3 weeks, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. I woke up with cramps. I woke up with pain. Many times I tried to go to the bathroom, I couldn't. Sometimes I prayed about it, wondered about it, if it was going to happen or not happen. And then when I finally could eliminate, the odor was off the hook. It was really foul and ugly. And I find that when I was experiencing that, I started developing acne, pimples all over my face, and which is a form of infection, in case you didn't know that. And I started developing allergies, breaking out with hives, which is the onset of cancer, in case you didn't know that. So before I knew it, I ended up with not only allergies and rash on my body, but I ended up with this big tumor that developed behind my head, tumors are basically a pocket of toxins. They have fatty tumors, protein tumors, and they can turn malignant on you. So I was facing surgery because of it. And then after that, I was faced with chronic asthma, showed up after that. I became very congested in my sinuses. My lungs became congested, and then I was forced to take medication, intravenous and oral medication, because I was having asthma attacks, chronic asthma attacks at that. And none of the doctors knew what was causing anything, because every time when I asked the doctor about this tumor thing, I said, what causes cancer tumors? And he said, We don't know what causes cancer tumors. We just know you got it, but we need to see you next week so we can remove your tumor because it's operable. And then when I was, shortly after that, when I was taking all these medications for chronic asthma, I was wondering, like, why am I suffering with all these things? And before I knew it, I ended up with arthritis. I had pain in my joints at 21 years of age. So what was going on at the time, I was thinking, why am I suffering? Why am I having all these different things showing up? And because in my mind, I was thinking, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't take drugs. While I was doing that and I was getting worse and worse and worse, one day, I went in the hospital, as I was going in there quite often to get medications and taking intravenous medication and oral medication. So I went in the hospital to get my medication, and I had to take it or I couldn't breathe. Because I had asthma attacks and I would suffer and I would suffocate. And all of a sudden I felt somebody walk up to the side of me, it seemed like, and I looked to see who it was, and there was no one there. And I was told, walk away and I'll teach you. And when I picked up on that, I left that hospital. So waking up with this sense of appreciation for this life, I was so excited, so thankful. And I have to tell you, these teachings, these 4 principles that I had been blessed with, honestly, I didn't really know how to apply them. And so what I did is I put my hands together again, I surrendered once again, and I connected, and I said, please, hook me up with somebody that can mentor me, somebody that can put me under their wing and teach me how to apply these principles of life that you've given me. I really don't know how to do it. Where do I start? How do I go about it? So anyway, right after that, I met this man, and I really thought he was around 32 when I met him, around there. And then later on, I found out in our conversation that he was 52. And believe me, when you meet somebody who looks 20 years younger than they really are, it has to get your attention, because it certainly did with me. And he started sharing with me how he traveled the world for 30 years learning natural healing, herbs and the pressure points, the trigger points, all these amazing, wonderful things that he studied and learned. He studied and learned from very masterful people. And he just kept researching and studying for 30 years. We brought in the herbs, we cut them all up, we put them in a big bowl. He sits me down and he says, okay, now eat. And I look inside the bowl and I go, you want me to eat that? Are you kidding me? That's for animals. That's not for humans. The most greens I ever had before that was iceberg lettuce, right? So he says, well, didn't you say that you want to get healthy? Didn't you say that you're willing to do whatever it takes to cleanse and heal and regenerate yourself? I said, yes. And then he said, well, then that's what you need to do. You need to eat these wonderful, rich, bitter herbs all cut up for you so you can eat them and drink the water for the next 2 months. So that way it can cleanse you. So that way it can alkalinize you. So that way it can heal and restore you and balance and harmonize every cell in your body and leave you radiant and strong and vibrant with abundance of energy. That's what it's going to do for you, because that's what these herbs do. And I said, all right. So I took another bite, and I really locked into what he said. And I began to associate that. And you know what? I have to tell you, the second bite that I took, it wasn't as bad as the first one. And the third one was even better. And within a week of eating these bitter herbs, a big bowl every day with water throughout the day, I have to tell you, a week later, I was thriving on those herbs, and I was enjoying them. And I was actually like, my taste buds actually changed, and I began to adopt them. And I lived like that for 2 months, my first 2 months. And I have to tell you, I felt a lot better. I was going to the bathroom better, I was feeling better, doing better, and I was breathing better. I mean, everything was getting better. Anyway, 6 months later, the tumor was gone. I was all cleansed, I was healed, I was regenerated, I felt better than I ever felt in my whole life. It was an incredible experience. Once that happened, you know, I got out of the Air Force, I came home and tried to pass it on to family, friends, and everybody rejected everything I said for 2 years. And they thought I was crazy because I was so excited. And so after 2 years, I was led to go silent. So I went silent for 12 years. I moved away from Southern California up to Washington State, and I lived off the land for many years. My hair just kept growing and growing down to my waist, and had a great life living off the land and having a garden and orchard, and just everything was going great. I just loved it, and I really appreciated every minute out there. And after 12 years, I was led to break silence, start sharing these teachings. That was in 1988, and I've been doing it ever since, gladly, willingly, lovingly, and thankfully. And so it's been great, and it's been a wonderful journey. As I began to start sharing it, I started with one person, then two, and then three, and then before I knew it, I was being flown all over the country doing talks for 50 people, 100 people, 500 people, 1,000, 2,000 people, whatever it was, and hundreds of thousands of people have been greatly benefited from learning these four principles, and I've seen great success helping people and facilitate them to guiding them how to apply these four principles in a powerful way. Before I share the four principles I'm so anxious to share with you, I want to cover a couple things like statistics that's going on these days. These statistics right now, per year, there's a $1 trillion being spent every year on medical treatments, on the top 5 diseases in the country. We're talking about heart disease. We're talking about cancer. We're talking about diabetes, obesity, depression. $1 trillion are being spent just on those top 5. That's not counting all the other conditions that are going on out there. Nearly 800,000 people are actually dying from those treatments. There's a lot of suffering going on out there. We're talking about, just on heart disease alone, we have 15 million people walking around with it. Over 600,000 people are dying yearly from that one condition. Another degenerative disease is called different forms of cancer. And over 13 million people are walking around with cancer in our country. Nearly 600,000 people are dying from that, different forms of cancer that people have. Diabetics, we have approximately around 30 million people walking around with diabetes, and it's growing. But over 200,000 people just die from that alone per year. There's a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of agony. But from a physical plane, every person who suffers with any kind of sickness or disease, they also suffer with what they call poor digestion, poor assimilation, poor metabolism, and poor elimination. So it's going to be imperative that we emphasize on the importance of digestion so we can actually assimilate and metabolize properly and eliminate properly. So it's been said that life begins in the blood and death begins in the colon. And so there's some issues about our health issues that are going on. So I just want to make sure you get that. A lot of us have become what they call victim or victimizers from our own abuse and suffering that we've been through. And this limited belief system that we suffer with because we made up stories that we're not good enough or we don't matter or whatever the case may be. We have also suffered with negative emotions. Negative emotions, when I mean by negative emotions, I'm talking about that we live in fear or maybe anger or resentment or guilt or shame or grief. These negative emotions actually distort the integrity and the quality of the cells in the body, because we're made up of trillions of cells, and every cell that make up your body, they respond to how you think, how you feel, even how you eat and drink, everything that you do. So that's why we're going to talk about cellular integrity today. Also, they also have what they call poor cellular environment. What I mean by that is that they're not getting enough sun. They're doing shallow breathing, which are lacking oxygen. They're deoxygenated. They're running dehydrated, not drinking the proper water or enough of it. They're not getting grounded, not getting the electrical frequency from the body. They're living in a polluted environment. They're being exposed to heavy metals and chemicals and what have you. They're using chemicals in their homes to clean their homes or clean their clothes or to clean their bodies and what have you. So all these chemicals, our exposure has created all kinds of havoc in our health. Another reason why people suffer is because of poor cellular exercise. And that means the lymphatic system, which is part of the immune system, becomes sluggish. And these toxins are, accumulated in the body. And so we have stored up toxins and waste byproducts in the body. And that people end up with all these parasites and viruses, bacteria, and yeast because of it. And also because their muscles are out of balance and their structure also is out of balance. That means the spine is out of alignment. So these things I'm talking about need to be in alignment. Otherwise, you fall short. And another reason why we suffer is because of poor cellular nutrition. That means that we're altering our foods. That means we're steaming, frying, baking, microwaving our foods, and putting preservative in our foods. And we're using inorganic foods that have chemicals, pesticides, herbicides in those foods that we consume. And they've been chemically treated and highly refined and what have you, and processed. So these foods are been altered from its natural state. So these are the reasons why we're suffering as people. Now I want to cover the keys to radiant health, the 4 principles that I've been so excited to share with you. The first one is called cellular communication. The next one is called cellular environment. Next, cellular exercise. And then cellular nutrition. How do you feed the body from a cellular perspective? So Dr. Emoto's work, I believe it has merit. And when I saw it for myself and realizing that love, which I feel is the greatest, most powerful force there is. And when he labeled it love, and the water was so beautiful, and the structure of that water under the microscope, by science, it shows up. But when you saw the one that said hate and evil, the water and the structure of the water was waggy looking. It was so ugly looking. And I thought about that, and I thought, gosh, imagine this. When you have negative thinking, negative emotions going on, the water in your body changes. Every cell in your body changes for the worse. They're distorted. The integrity falls short, and you become susceptible and vulnerable to infections and diseases. The second principle, cellular environment, it's really about integrating the elements, embracing the sun, the water, the air, the earth. And what I mean by that is, you see, I don't really think I understood the power of this principle until after I was all cleansed and healed. And then when I went into the wilderness and I fasted on water for 40 days, and I was out there in nature, right? Being out there for 40 days and having this abundance of energy and feeling so much power, so much energy from being out there and embracing these elements. And all I was doing is just drinking water, snow water. So experiencing it for myself, this is when I realized it. It's very, very powerful. So anyone that I have been working with over the years that call for support, as soon as I get them out in the sun on a daily basis and show them how to be present to their breath and how to breathe slower and deeper and drinking the good water and plenty of it and getting grounded on the earth, and I see them recover time after time after time, it's been a very incredible experience for them. So because you see, when you do this, it energizes your cells, it detoxifies them, it oxygenates them, it hydrates them, it strengthens your cells. And when you get grounded and you're tapping into the sun, the energy, the electrical energy is just coming right into you. But you need to be grounded to experience it. It's just like a light bulb. It needs to have the positive side and the negative side to have a light bulb turn on, right? So it's kind of like that. The sun gives you energy. There's air, there's electricity in the air that you breathe in. But the grounding aspect of it allows you to, it's like the negative side. So it allows you to turn on the light. This is when you light up. This is one of the keys to radiant, health and wellness. So there you go. So I'm going to go to the third principle. It's called cellular exercise. There's different forms of cellular exercise that you can practice, and some exercises are more cellular than others. So when you do the specific forms of cellular exercise, they're more consistent, and they actually exercise all the cells throughout the body, and that's what we're after. When you do weightlifting and calisthenics, it's more limited. It doesn't do as much cellular exercise like maybe the other ones do. The reason behind cellular exercise is to not only oscillate every cell, but it also is to stimulate the lymphatic system, which is part of the immune system. You have several times more fluid in your lymphatic system than you do your bloodstream. Your bloodstream has a pump called the heart that circulates blood throughout the whole body. So it can feed your cells, oxygenate the cells, and then you end up with waste byproducts, you see. And so these waste byproducts that are in your blood, you need to remove them and release them from the blood on a continuous basis. Well, you have what they call the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic fluid in that system can pull the toxins and waste byproducts out of the blood through a fine membrane. And then those toxins are actually eliminated through basically 4 eliminative organs. We're talking about bowels. That's called defecation. The kidneys, urination. The lungs, respiration. And we're talking about the skin, perspiration. So when you properly stimulate the lymphatic system, it keeps your body clean, it keeps it healthy, it keeps it strong. Every person that I personally have come across that suffer with any sickness or disease, they have a sluggish lymphatic system. So it's imperative that we stimulate the lymph. So you can do it through breath work, you can do it through rebounding on a miniature trampoline where you jump up and down, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes once or 2 or 3 times a day, depending on your situation. You can do it through swimming nonstop for 20, 30 minutes. You can do it through body work. There's called lymph draining through body work. You can do it through hot cold applications. You go into a sauna and you jump into a cold plunge, go back and forth, or go out into the mineral spring water and get nice and hot and sweaty, and then jump in the cold plunge, go back and forth. This hot cold application helps stimulate the lymphatic system. If you have an issue going on, do it 3 times a day. You know, do these various things that I talk about, and it'll help you. That's why we're going to do workshop modules, so we can teach you how to do them in a more intentional way. The next principle I'd like to discuss it's called cellular nutrition, cellular food. How do you feed the body on a cellular level? I do recognize that we've been conditioned, we've been programmed. A long time ago, we actually used to eat all fresh, plant-based, living foods back in the day. But somehow through time, we learned how to, put our foods through fire and destroy the life force within our food before we ate it. Somehow we got conditioned, programmed, talked into doing that, however the case. And however that happened, and for whatever the case, all I can say to you is this. All I know is I was dying in bed and I was told to take living foods into my body. And this is one of the principles that I was taught. So you see, you'll notice that in the wild kingdom out there, all the animals, they eat everything fresh. They eat nothing cooked. The only people that eat anything cooked is humans and animals that are domestic. See, we've been taught to do this. But naturally, organically, we were actually intended to eat everything fresh. So when you eat fresh fruits and vegetables and herbs in a natural state, without cooking, without frying, baking, or steaming, or microwaving, then and only then, you're taking the life into your body now. And this is a very powerful lifestyle that I've learned. And so when I learned to enjoy fresh fruits and vegetables and herbs in a natural state, right from nature, And when I learned how to combine them and have fun with it, when I learned how to take seeds and nuts and soak them in water and germinate them and enzyme activate them and what have you, they became way easier to digest, way easier to process and metabolize and utilize and eliminate and run it more efficient. But I think it's quite fascinating, even in my own experience, that within 6 months, everything dissolves. The tumor dissolves, the acne, asthma, all these conditions went away in 6 months, never come back in 41 years. So I'm here to say it works. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to live it. All you need to do is just do it and live it and be it. The fourth principle, cellular nutrition, cellular food. How do you feed the body from a cellular perspective? How do you get the nutrition from your food that you're eating down to a cellular level so it can actually feed the cells? So that means that ultimately, you're consuming organic, living, plant-based, enzyme-rich foods consisting of fresh fruits and vegetables and herbs, as well as germinated, cultured nuts and seeds. These longest living people in the world, that's what they're doing, okay? Now, I understand that we've been taught otherwise. So for years and centuries, we've been cooking our foods, processing our foods, and what have you, and denaturing the foods, altering them from its natural state. But these longest living people in the world, these that are living 110, 120 years plus years of life, they eat everything fresh and enzyme-rich foods, cultured foods. We teach it to people and how to do that. So the thing is that while you're in that process of understanding this concept, what happens is that when you're eating fresh living foods, enzyme-rich foods, pre-digested foods, what happens, it makes it very bioavailable to your cells. This way you get all the protein amino acids, the fatty acids, the glucose, the phytonutrients, the antioxidants, the vitamins, the minerals at a cellular level. And that's what this is about. But at the same token, it's also understandable that at this point, this is when the body can recognize these micronutrients to absorb into the cells. And that way, from there, you can actually manufacture metabolic enzymes, hormones, build lean muscle, hair, skin, and bones, and maintain your what they call cellular integrity. Now, what we've discovered through time is that when we eat cooked food, and there's no enzyme activity in cooked food, and when it goes into the body has to use more of its own enzymes to digest cooked food more than you remanufacture within the body. So then the body becomes enzyme deficient through time. So then we develop this inability to continue to digest all the proteins into amino acids, all the carbohydrates into glucose, and fats into fatty acids, so it can carry the minerals and activate the vitamins and produce enzymes and hormones in the body. So unfortunately, what happens is you end up with a partial digestion. This partial digestion that I'm talking about is what leads us to many issues that show up. And what I mean by that is, you see, there are certain foods that actually that serve you and support your health. And there are certain foods that we eat that actually degenerate you and compromise your health. And they both taste great. So we need to have a distinction which ones work and which ones don't. And that's why I'm saying raw living enzyme-rich foods work. The cooked food, processed foods, doesn't work long term. So it will make you enzyme deficient through time. They've already proven it scientifically that cooked food uses, the body has to use more of its own enzymes to digest that cooked food more than you remanufacture. It will cause the body to become enzyme depleted, and then you end up with partial digestion of your proteins, carbs, and fats. So then when you have this accumulation of undigested proteins, carbs, and fats, they putrefy, ferment, and acidify within the body. And that attracts parasites, viruses, bacteria, and yeast. And these little critters that I'm talking about, they live on this waste. And when they live on this waste, they multiply themselves. And they also excrete themselves. So while they're excreting, it's very, very toxic, very poisonous, it's very smelly, very acidic. And everybody that has sickness and diseases going on, they run very acidic, but it's related to what I'm saying. So this is why while you're in the process of evolving from cooked processed food to get into raw living cultured foods, enzyme-rich foods, in the process, some people go as far as going vegetarian, and then they get away from the animal protein and they get into vegetarian type, protein foods. And people just keep evolving like that. And then some people get into the raw food lifestyle, where they eat raw fruits and vegetables, raw nuts, raw seeds. And then some people go one level next, and that's when they go into raw fruits and vegetables, and seeds and nuts are soaked in water and germinated. And then they go a little further and learn how to culturize them. So it's one level to another. But what we found was there is an alternative. There's what we've done over many years now, and through science and through research, we discovered that there's this thing called enzymes and enzyme therapy. And I want to share it with you because I think it's something that can be very, very helpful to us, all of us. See, there's a doctor that I really appreciate and respect. His name is Dr. Edward Howell. He's a medical doctor scientist. He spent 50 years of his life traveling the world, studying, researching, learning the keys to why these people are living 120 plus years in different parts of the world. And when he discovered that enzymes was a missing link, that he discovered that when people are eating raw living enzyme-rich foods, they experienced longevity, never getting sick. And he also discovered that when people ate cooked food, as he studied people and did urine analysis on people, they became enzyme deficient through eating cooked food through time. And this is when he discovered that when you eat cooked food, the white blood count goes up. It's like it's under attack, and the body responds to cooked food like it's a poison, just like if you smoke, drink, and take drugs. And he also discovered the body has used more of its own enzymes to digest that food more than you remanufacture. It causes enzyme depletion. And he also discovered that lack of enzymes is fundamentally responsible for ill health, degenerative diseases, premature aging, and premature death. And so when he put all his patients on living foods, plant-based enzyme-rich foods, within months the diseases went away. And these same people went home and they went right back to their old habits, because we are creatures of habit, right? So that's when he realized that he needed to come up with a solution. So when he discovered how to extract enzymes from plants, how to concentrate them and give them to people when they ate their food, to put the enzymes back into the food that was cooked out of the food. Because see, enzymes are very sensitive to heat, as you know. And at 105 degrees, they begin to die. 118 degrees, they're pretty much done. So when you're eating enzyme deficient or cooked food, there is no enzyme activity in cooked food. It's not happening. And so now you'll have a distinction from this point on. So yes, it's going to be better that you eat fresh living foods ultimately. But while you're in the process of evolving and going from cooked food to living foods, everything fresh, nothing cooked, into your future, 100%. Because if you want 100% results, you go 100%. But if you want 80% results, go 100% raw living foods. It's like that. So personally, I chose to go 100% because I want 100% results. I want to be as healthy as I can. I want to live the quality of life. I don't want to ever get sick again. I've been there, done that, so I don't like that. So I'm not going there. I'm not going back there, not if I can help it. So I'm encouraging you that if you are inspired and you're excited to make powerful decisions for your life and become as healthy and as strong and as vibrant with full of abundance of energy, if you want that, then go 100%. But in the meantime, you might consider taking some powerful enzymes when you do. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. But first, before I do, I want to explain a little bit more about what enzymes really are and their function. Enzymes are the spark of life. They're protein molecules with electricity running through them. They're energy. They perform every single function in the body. They take care of the labor force in your body. I'd like to give you just a blurb about enzymes and their efficacy and their power. What are they? What do they do? How do they work in the body? You see, enzymes is the spark of life. They're protein molecules with electricity running through them. They're the catalysts. There's so many different functions. You got 3 classes of enzymes. I'll go over that in a second. But what I'd like to just get across to you is that you have enzymes as a spark of life. They're energy. Without enzymes, you can't even grow the plants off your ground. Without enzymes, you cannot live. Without enzymes in your food, you shall not live. That's why I'm saying that when you begin to understand that enzymes take care of every single function within the body and within life itself. They're very amazing. They're the workers. They're the workers. Without them, nothing happens. They take care of every single you can't even blink your eyelids without enzymes. You can't even think or remember or reason without enzymes. That's why you need to know about the power of enzymes. You see, there's this thing called Kirlian photography. With Kirlian photography, they take pictures of plants, fruits, vegetables, whatever. And Kirlian photography actually picks up the electrical energy, the electrical force that's going on within anything alive, whether it's humans, animals, plants, whatever it is. So we took this raw cabbage and we took a picture of it with Kirlian photography, and it picked up all this electrical energy that's in it. And it was active, alive, and you could tell there was lots of energy in it, just full of light. And yet, we took another picture of a cooked cabbage, and it was dead, and there was no energy in it. And so you look at that, and you go, interesting. So my point is that if you want, put life in, get life out, eat fresh live foods. It's real simple. But if you want to eat cooked food, dead food, then that's what it's going to lead you to. It's going to take your life force, more enzymes from your body to process it, more than you make, and you will become enzyme deficient. Your life force drops, your enzyme potential drops, and you become susceptible to undigested proteins, carbs, and fats that putrefy, ferment, and acidify in the body. I talked about that earlier, and you'll hear it again because it's one of those things we want to make sure it get across to you. I want to do a demonstration for you. This demonstration I'm talking about, it's basically oatmeal. I'm using it as a demonstration just to kind of give you a sense and idea of what I'm talking about. This is just cooked oatmeal cereal. You can see it's pretty sticky, pretty gooey. All we did is cooked it up, let it cool down, and it got real sticky. Now, even though we're just using this for demonstration, but the point you want to get when you see this is that it's cooked. There's no enzyme activity in cooked food of any kind. Oatmeal is just a real easy demonstration to show you for demonstration purposes. But it's worth 1,000 words. Because see, many years ago, over 35 years ago, when I first saw this, my friend was dying from cancer. He was skin and bones, and he was giving up. Well, within 6 months, his cancer was gone, and his weight came back, or it was in the process of coming back, and he got color to his face. And when I saw him back from my trip, I looked at him like, oh my gosh, what was your secret? How did you do it? This is incredible. And he showed me this demonstration I'm going to show you. And when I saw this, my light just got a lot brighter because I was so impressed and so excited about what I learned about enzymes and enzyme therapy. I mean, I knew enzymes, I knew that they were important to us, and that's why I was eating all raw living foods already. I already had a few years behind me. But when I learned about the efficacy and the power of plant enzymes in a concentrated form, how you can use it to accelerate the cleansing healing process, how you can use it to help you aid and put the enzymes back in your food that's deficient in your food, to help you compensate, take the stress off your pancreas. We're designed to eat fresh, living foods, period. See, normally you would never have to take enzyme supplement at all. If you just follow the 4 principles, you can have a great life. If you're living on rich soil with good air and good water and good sun and just a peaceful life, you don't have to take enzyme supplements. Just eat the fresh live foods right out of the garden, freshly picked. But if you have enzyme deficiency going on, or if your food's enzyme deficient, it's a good idea. Even ultimately, even when I come back to living off the land again, even on rich soil, I'll still keep using enzymes. They serve me. So as I'm doing the oatmeal demonstration, I just want to emphasize, ultimately, obviously, the ultimate lifestyle is to eat fresh live foods. But even if you're still eating cooked foods, and while you're evolving in this lifestyle, I just want to show you what enzymes do with cooked food. That's why it's so powerful what Dr. Owen Howe did when he came up with the power of enzymes and how you can use them to help compensate for the enzyme deficiency in the food itself. Now this oatmeal cereal I'm going to do here, as you can see, it's pretty thick, right? So what I'm going to do, so the oatmeal demonstration, I'm just going to put some enzymes in there. These are just plant-based, they're full spectrum, highly active enzymes, and they're called Lyfzyme. Lyfzyme, you can see it's spelled a little different, L-I-Y-F, it means life in your food. So we're putting life back into the food, and as I mix the enzymes and the oatmeal together, the enzymes will begin to activate and begin to break down the proteins into amino acids. And remember, amino acids is what builds muscle, hair, skin, and bones. It makes more enzymes and hormones in your body. There's other enzymes in there that break down the carbohydrates into glucose, simple sugars to give you lots of energy so you can burn clean. It also has other enzymes in there that break down fats into fatty acids so you can have healthy hair, healthy skin, good healthy brain function. You can have good healthy myelin sheath around your nerves, throughout your body. We actually put life back in that was cooked out of it. And so as it broke it down into micronutrients, you can see that it liquefied it and pre-digested it. And that is what we're after when we eat food. So when you eat food and you chew it really well and you drop it into your stomach, this is when pre-digestion takes place. Digestion starts even before you eat, right? But as you chew your food really well and it goes into your stomach, it gets pre-digested, and that's what you want to experience. I'm just trying to show you from the outside of the body what these enzymes do. These are of the highest quality enzymes that we put together through all the research, technology, and experience that we've acquired over many years. Lyfzyme, it is of the highest, broadest spectrum of 16 different kinds of enzymes. We're using whole food cofactors, right? And the activity is of the highest I've ever seen over all the enzymes I've ever seen. And also, they're at the most affordable pricing ever in history. So I'm very proud, very excited to have created a paradigm to make this available to the world. And all I'm saying is that while we're evolving, even if you're still eating cooked food and you're learning this whole concept, is that you take enzymes with your meals right before you eat. Most people are taking somewhere between 4 or 5 with each meal before they eat, so it can mix with their food and help them do what? Put the enzymes back, put the life back. But what most people are doing is they're not taking powerful enzymes like this with their food, and they're eating cooked processed food, and then it goes into the system, they become enzyme deficient. So then they're only partially digesting, partially absorbing, partially metabolizing, and partially eliminating. So then they become somewhat constipated. So eating 3 meals a day, normally you'd be going 3 times a day. But if you're eating 3 meals a day and going once a day or twice a day, you're a little behind schedule. But I have a lot of people that I've talked to that are going every other day, every 3 days, once a week. There's more common than not. That's why we have a multi-billion-dollar industry today called the laxative industry. It exists because people are not digesting properly and assimilating properly, metabolizing, eliminating properly. This is a very important factor that we need to consider. So in solution, take some powerful enzymes, put the life back into your food, pre-digest it so you can absorb it and utilize it, convert it, eliminate, run clean and efficient. Because what's happening today is when people go to the bathroom today, these days, has been going on for a whole lot of years. Because I've been in many homes all over the world, and what happens is that people go into the bathroom and they sit there and sit and wait and pray and hope and wonder if they're going to go or not go. But then when they finally do go to the bathroom, the person who really suffers is the person who walks into that bathroom after they just left. When people say things like, oh my goodness, what died in that bathroom, that's what's happening, is that the food wasn't properly digested or assimilated or utilized and converted. So they have a lot of undigested proteins, carbs, and fats going on. And that putrefies, ferments, and acidifies in the body, even in the bowels, and it becomes very toxic waste in the body. And this is what attracts parasites and viruses, bacteria, and yeast. And these little critters are living on it. So next I want to cover the 3 classes of enzymes. You have food enzymes that's currently going on within your food. You know, you let the green banana sit on the counter and it ripens naturally on its own. Those are enzymes doing that. Those are called food enzymes. Avocado sits on the counter. It starts hard and then eventually it softens up and it ripens, right? That's enzymes doing that, you see. So these food enzymes I'm talking about, they're necessary for us. But what's happening in most cases is that we as a people forgot that, and we start learning to cook our foods, process our food, and eating enzyme deficient food. The life force has been taken out. So we're taking this dead food or enzyme deficient food and put it into the body. When we do that, we overwork the pancreas. And then we overdo that, and then we end up lacking the production of metabolic enzymes. And their enzyme potential drops, and then we become enzyme deficient. And then we become vulnerable and susceptible to undigested food. Because then when you become enzyme deficient, then you only partially digest your proteins, carbs, and fats. So you're only partially digesting, like I said before. I'll repeat again because it's very important that you get this. So when you have undigested proteins, carbohydrates, and fats due to an enzyme deficiency, then it putrefies, ferments, and acidifies in the body. But that attracts parasites and virus, bacteria, and yeast. And these little critters are living on this waste. As they're living on this waste, they themselves proliferate, they multiply inside you. And they become very toxic to your body. And they also secrete waste. They also secrete, byproduct from their own little bodies. And their waste that releases from their little bodies are very acidic, very toxic, very poisonous, and very smelly and deadly. And it leads to infections and diseases of all kinds. That's why I say toxemia really is the one word that covers every disease there is. Because toxemia is related to toxic thinking, toxic emotions, heavy metals, chemicals, parasites, viruses, bacteria, and yeast. So these toxins is what's setting us up for all kinds of ailments. So just know that our purpose here is to master digestion and then detoxify the body so we can regenerate ourselves, so we can cleanse and regenerate ourselves. And the body can heal itself and restore itself. So next slide I'm going to go into is I want to talk about an enzyme called protease. Because you see, what happens is that when people are eating protein foods, like whether you're vegetarian or non-vegetarian, if you're eating cooked protein foods, whether it's beef, chicken, or turkey, or fish, or eggs, or even tofu, even cooked beans, and roasted nuts, or grains, or seeds, or whatever. But these protein foods that we take in to the body in a cooked form, like I said, cooked, vegetarian or non-vegetarian, cooked proteins, they go inside you, and your body is going to end up using an enzyme called protease more than you make. And protease, you become protease enzyme deficient. And when you become deficient due to this cooked proteins, then what happens is the proteins go undigested, they putrefy in the system. And then what happens is that after thousands and thousands of urine analysis on people that they've done over the years by doctors and scientists, when they discovered through urine analysis when a person is protease enzyme deficient, they end up with bacterial, viral, fungal infections. Every infection you can think of is linked to a protease enzyme deficiency due to the fact that they have an accumulation of undigested proteins that have been putrefying and accumulating within their system. It also leads right to acne, skin problems, which is a form of infection, cancer, tumors, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, lupus, bowel movement syndromes, irritable bowel syndromes, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, which is an ulcerated intestinal tract, endometriosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, mental disorders, depression and anxiety attacks, loss of muscle tone. These are the things that show up. So this is why when a person has all these trapped proteins, that's why when we do live blood analysis on people and we can see if they have a bunch of trapped proteins and what the conditions they match up, and we just take care of that deficiency. Another thing I want you to get acquainted with is the fact that people end up with eating a lot of cooked carbohydrates, whether it might be bagels or breads or pastas or cereals or cookies and crackers and pastries. All these cooked carbohydrates, when people eat those things, they become what they call amylase enzyme deficient, because amylase is an enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates to glucose, simple sugars. And But when you become deficient in it, and it's not in your food, and you become deficient, because you do become deficient in it by eating cooked, processed, carbohydrates, then what happens is it ferments in the body. And when it ferments in the body, it leads to allergies, which is undigested food particles. And it turns into allergens. And then people have allergy reactions, like breaking out with hives, or congested, or they get watery eyes, or they sneeze, and all kinds of different things happen to them. Respiratory disorders, these are the ones that have lung issues, your asthmas, and your any kind of lung issue, inflammation of the joints, different forms of arthritis show up, gas, bloating, weight gain shows up, just from fermentation from this carbohydrates. Skin rashes show up. They get stung by an insect and they swell up like a balloon. That's an amylase enzyme deficiency. And the other enzyme I want to talk about is lipase. It's an enzyme called lipase that breaks down fats into fatty acids. When people have a history of consuming, fried foods, heated oils, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, point being is when you become lipase enzyme deficient and you're eating these cooked heated oils or heated fats, excuse me, then you end up with chronic inflammatory conditions, psoriasis, cardiovascular conditions, like plaque in the arteries that leads to all kinds of heart attacks in people's lives, cellulite, little pockets of fat, high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels, high triglyceride levels. These are the things that are showing up. We had a fellow that suffered with diabetes in a major way. He was taking insulin 3 times a day for years. He ended up with what they call gangrene, and his feet, the flesh on his feet were like beginning to rot, and the doctors were getting ready to amputate this man. He went on massive enzymes, plant enzymes, medical grade plant enzymes, and also probiotics, which are friendly bacteria, and some herbs, and a lot of fresh juicing, a lot of body work, a lot of detox bathing, a lot of colonic therapy and what have you. But 7 days later, his infection was gone. And on top of that, all this mucoid plaquing and worms and all kinds of black, awful fecal matter came out of his body during those 7 days. And it was very, very high volumes, and it was really evil stuff came out of his body. But gladly to say, 7 days later, the gangrene was gone. 2 months later, he was off the insulin. Diabetes was gone. And 6 months later, he was running 2 miles a day with those same feet. So when you see things like that, it just gets your attention. You know that we have this potential to help ourselves and heal ourselves. So these 4 principles I talk about are very vital and very important. So incorporate the 4 principles, because you see, 99% of people I've seen their live blood analysis with, because sometimes people call for help and support, but we've seen the blood, and 99% of them, they all had accumulation of undigested proteins, carbs, and fats trapped in their body at certain percentages. So what we do is just show them how to follow the 4 principles, how to take care of some deficiencies, and then usually within several months later, usually within 6 months to 8 months, their blood gets nice and clean and healthy. Clean blood is important, because you want all your red blood cells to be nice and round and separate and glowing, and all the plasma to be clean and healthy. Because when you have clean blood, you have a clean life, and then you feel great. Take the 4th principle and just partake of raw living enzyme-rich foods. If you want to do something to enhance the enzyme deficiency in your food, because it's been cooked, or maybe because it comes from enzyme deficient soil like I do, then do that. Take Lifezyme with your meal, because it'll help you. It'll help you in a big way, because it has the ability to compensate for the enzyme deficiencies going on within the food itself. So you can maximize digestion. So then you can manufacture the metabolic enzymes and even more digestive enzymes in your body. Some people say, oh, if you take enzymes, you're going to have to become dependent on them. Folks, we're already dependent on them. Are you kidding me? It's like the sun. We're dependent on the sun, just like the plants are dependent on the sun. You need sun to live, and you need water to drink, to flush and regulate and hydrate your cells. And the enzymes are right next to it. So if the enzymes are not in the food, you need to do something to compensate for that, because if you don't, you will compensate. That's why the ideal situation is Go get a piece of land, build it, make sure it's enzyme rich, vitamin rich, mineral rich, and what have you, and grow your food off of that and eat that food. Then you don't need to take Lyfzyme with your food. But if you're going to take an enzyme, take Lyfzyme, because it is the highest activity, the highest quality, the highest spectrum of enzymes with no fillers, and we're using whole food cofactors. So it's a very powerful, superior, multiple digestive enzyme that you take around 5 with each meal. You do that for the next 100 years. As long as you're living in the city, as long as you're buying food from health food stores and organic, or farmers markets and what have you, or even grocery stores now that have organic food, consider to use Lyfzymes with your meals. It would behoove you to do that. It would serve you best if you did, as I have over the years. The other one that you might consider is Pyrazyme. If you have any excess undigested proteins, carbs, and fats in your blood or in your body, which most people do, like 99% of them, then you might want to take Pyrazyme for a little while. Pyrazyme is one of the kind of things, it's a highly concentrated enzyme, but it's designed to take on an empty stomach an hour or more before meals or 2 hours or more after meals. So that way they can go into your system systemically and work on and digest the excess undigested proteins, carbs, and fats that have accumulated in your body. You do not want excess undigested proteins, carbs, and fats in your body, because they putrefy, ferment, and acidify within the body, and that becomes a food, an attraction for the parasites and bacteria and yeast and what have you. So when you take Pyrazyme 5, 3, 4 times a day, if you want to, you can double it. But point being is on an empty stomach, an hour again before meals or 2 hours or more after meals. But when you do that, these Pyrazyme enzymes, these powerful enzymes will go in there and get rid of and digest the undigested proteins, carbs, and fats, including mucoid plaquing in the intestinal tract, protein plaquing, mineral plaquing, and fat plaquing. That's what it does. Those enzymes, our job is to do that. So if you take that for the next, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever you need to do until you get all that excess out. And then when you do that, then you can stop. If you want to take it maybe once a day for maintenance, like I do, you can do that. That's a consideration. Pyrazyme. That's why we put it together. Now, there's a therapeutic probiotic. There's 2 probiotics I want to share with you. One's called PuraLife. In PuraLife, it's a broad spectrum of probiotics mixed together. These probiotics have this synergistic value, but we also enhanced it with proteolytic enzymes on top of that. So it makes it a highly concentrated probiotic. It comes in capsule form at this point, and what you can do is you can take them at nighttime before you go to bed. Some people take 5 or 10 right before they go to bed. Some people that have any issues going on, they'll take 20 before they go to bed, because they want to get rid of that excess undigested protein trapped in the body, this protein that went undigested and putrefied in the system. So remember what I said. It breaks down proteins, but it also breaks down putrefied protein. When I see people with food poisoning and they take a handful of PuraLife or even the other one called LifeBiotic, within 3 hours, the symptoms are gone, because they do that about every hour in the hour. Anyway, I want to go into LifeBiotic now. LifeBiotic, it's a highly proteolytic 5 bacterial strains put together where they work very synergistically together. And one of my favorite things I like to do with LifeBiotic, besides taking a spoonful at night before I go to bed, sesame seed yogurt, sesame seed coconut yogurt, macadamia yogurt, macadamia and coconut yogurt, Brazil nut yogurt, Brazil nut coconut yogurt, and sunflower seed yogurt. You see what I mean? It just goes on and on. I even take wild rice, like the forbidden rice. I soak it for a couple of days, and I make yogurt out of that. It's amazing how many dishes you can make with it. All these different dishes. You can make all these different hummuses. You can make all kinds of smoothies and dressings and soups and dips and parfaits. You can even make raw gourmet ice cream with these different yogurts. It's just raw gourmet cheesecakes and on and on. But the beautiful part about this is that when you can take nuts or seeds and soak them and then culturize them with LifeBiotic, it does a couple of things for you. It makes that enzyme activated. It gets it pre-digested, so it makes it easy for the body to digest and absorb and utilize and convert into fuel, into energy, to build muscle, hair, skin, bones. It's amazing. See, when you learn how to release all the amino acids from your seeds, or the protein amino acids that I'm talking about, or your fatty acids from the fats in seeds, or the glucose from the carbohydrates in seeds, and break it down into these micronutrients, it makes it so bioavailable, so easy to digest and absorb. I have so many people that tell me they're allergic to this seed or this nut, and when they learn how to soak and germinate and culturize and pre-digest it, they're able to actually consume it in that state. And they go on just fine with life, especially after I show them how to clean up their system, you know. There's another one I'd like to talk to you about. It's called Life Essentials. Again, life is called L-I-Y-F. Again, it means life in your food. Remember that. So Life Essentials, basically, it's a whole food protein complex, very rich in tocotrienols and tocopherols, which is natural vitamin E. It's a very powerful antioxidant that helps to neutralize free radicals, but is great for the skin, is great for the hair, is great for the heart, is great for regenerating your liver. So I really do it. I put it in my yogurts, I put it in my smoothies, my dressings, my soups, and I enhance the nutritional value of my foods with it. I really enjoy it. I usually average about maybe 3 tablespoons a couple times a day on the average. That's something you might want to consider. I want to talk a little bit about Pureit Cleanse. Pureit Cleanse is just a superior blend of specialized herbs that help to clean, detoxify, tone, soothe the intestinal tract. It actually helps to get the mucoid plaque off the intestinal tract, like absorb the toxins and carry it out of the system. So it's a really gentle approach. It definitely improves the bowel function. So instead of people, you know, they eat 3 meals a day and they go once a day or once every other day, that's very common these days. What we're trying to do is teach people to digest really good, assimilate good, metabolize good, and eliminate good. So if they eat 3 meals a day, they're going to go 3 times a day. And they're going to run clean, they're going to run efficient. That's why people have mucoid plaque. That's why they have all these trapped undigested proteins, carbs, and fats in the body. This is one of the things that through Pureit Cleanse we can help people start cleaning, detoxifying the bowels. Because in the bowels, when you have excess toxins in there, mucoid plaque in there, and this yeast and these parasites and what have you, and these worms that are in that area, they are setting us up for all kinds of problems. So we need to clean them out and get rid of the environment out of there so we can run clean and efficient. That's why Pureit Cleanse has been very beneficial. So generally what people do is they take a tablespoon with 6 ounces of orange juice or water, and they just mix it up in a little container and drink it. And they wait for an hour before they pursue their day with breakfast or whatever they're going to do. So first thing in the morning, tablespoon. Mix it, drink it, and then wait an hour before you do anything else. So do your best to take care of this life that you've been given, and do your best to take care of your families and your friends and your loved ones, and spread this message along your way in your path, that it might empower others to catch on to the great life that we deserve. I've been living a very incredible, joyous, and powerful life, and a healthy life at that, over many years, and continue to do so. So be in the space of love and do everything out of love and appreciation for this life. And you'll find that everything you think and everything that you eat and drink and do and be, you will be in a powerful place, and you'll be happier than you've ever been. That's really the whole key to everything that we're doing here in this life. So let it be known that that is our purpose here. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thank you.